Hello, my name is John Rose, and in this video I'd like to give what I believe to be the definitive answer to three of the most important questions that we face as a species. Number one, why do we have so many problems? Number two, why aren't we solving our problems? Number three, how do we solve our problems? The simple answer to the first question, why do we have so many problems, has to do with the law of cause and effect and can be traced back to 11 main events, 5 of which are causing most of our problems. The first main event happened about 2 million years ago, around 2/3 into our existence, and that's when our brains nearly doubled in size, going from just under 400 cc's to almost 800 cc's. And that's what allowed us to master things we'd never mastered before, and altogether I've identified 5 main things that we've mastered that have drastically changed the fate of mankind. And the reason why they were able to change the fate of mankind is because with all new knowledge comes the potential for evil. And that's whenever we apply something that we master from nature to something that we need from nature. And that's exactly what we did. We made 5 bad applications, or 5 huge mistakes, that are causing most of our problems. The simple answer to the second question, why aren't we solving our problems, also has to do with the law of cause and effect. More specifically, it has to do with what comes after the effect, and that's called the ripple effect, and that's where effects can become causes. That's when a problem can become a problem. It's also when effects can become knowledge, and everyone knows that experience is the best teacher. And then the ripple effect can be traced back to 21 main problems of knowledge. There are 2 forms of ignorance, 12 sources of false knowledge, and 7 wilderness factors. In other words, the main reason why we're not solving our problems is because of ignorance. We have 2 forms of ignorance. The number one problem of knowledge is not having the knowledge we need, and it's obvious we don't have it, otherwise we wouldn't have so many problems. And the number one reason why we can't find that knowledge is because we have false knowledge in its place. That's the 2 forms of ignorance where we don't know we don't know. And then there are 19 obstacles, or 19 reasons why we don't know we have false knowledge in place of the knowledge we need, which would be in the first stage of knowledge where knowledge is acquired. And as a result, most of us don't know that we're making mistakes in the second stage of knowledge where knowledge is applied. And remember, we're making 5 bad applications. And then most of us don't know that most of our problems are 100% within our control in the third stage of knowledge where knowledge is manifested. So when we think of our belief system, we want to think of the 3 stages of knowledge. We want to think of acquired, applied, manifested. We want to think of thoughts, actions, reactions. We want to think of beliefs, causes, effects. We want to think of our belief system, our lifestyle choices, our feedback system. Or we can think of the things we think in the first stage of knowledge, the things we do or have done to us in the second stage of knowledge, and the things we get in the third stage of knowledge. So the main reason why we have so many problems is because we're making mistakes. The main reason why we're not solving our problems is because we don't know we're making mistakes. Most of us are doing things that we think are okay, but they're not okay. They are wrong, and they are the reason why we have so many problems. And finally, the simple answer to the third question, how do we solve our problems? All we have to do to solve the vast majority of our problems, or at least those problems that are 100% within our control, which just happens to be the vast majority of our problems, is to satisfy 2 groups of needs that are based on the law of cause and effect and the ripple effect. And I call that the science and art of solving problems that are 100% within our control. The science has to do with knowledge of how to live, and that's where we work upstream with what we think and what we do. And the art has to do with knowledge of how to adapt, and that's what comes after the effect. The science has to do with working upstream, so working upstream with what we do so we can satisfy 12 essential needs and thereby remove the primary causes. And the art has to do with working downstream with what we got so we can satisfy 2 additional temporary needs and thereby deal with those subsequent causes that aren't going to go away just because we remove the primary causes. And then there'll be 10 subsequent needs from the fall of mankind, and our 10 subsequent needs from the condition of our communal state. And I call this condition of our communal state hypoheliosis, which is an abnormally low biophoton level. So there are 2 things we must do. One is we must work upstream and correct these 5 main mistakes, and then we have to work downstream and work with these subsequent needs, 6 of those subsequent needs that are also problems of knowledge. We have to take back control over the government, because the government's what's used to control our educational systems and our monetary system and our judicial system and the media, and they're in essence able to those who are able to control the government are able to control every major sector of human endeavor, and the government just happens to be one of those major sectors. Of course, the main way this is done is through the absolute tool of control, which is money. So that's one of the first things we have to do downstream, is we've got to eradicate usury, we've got to outlaw debt-based currency and go back to, on a temporary basis, to debt-free currency, with an understanding that once we get rid of hypoheliosis, we'll all be reconnected and we'll have a different mentality, where we'll understand deep down that the more we give, the more we receive. Right now, we can't even wrap our brain around that. But that's the main things we have to do. We got to work upstream, remove primary causes. We got to work downstream, deal with subsequent causes that don't go away, as well as subsequent needs that are used against us. The worst subsequent cause of all would be the dark side of our behavior. So we have to be aware of what the darkest of the dark side of our behavior has done, so we can undo what they've done. We've got to take back the airways. We've got to do away with usury. We've got to take back our educational systems. And it all begins by first going upstream. If we don't go upstream and get reconnected and get rid of hypoheliosis, everything else we do is a distraction. So most of us know about a lot of the bad things that are happening downstream, and we're working on that. And we don't want to stop working on it, but what we have to do in addition is go upstream too, and that's what we're not doing. So we have to unite these two groups of people who figure things out. There's a group of people who know we got to get reconnected. They may not understand all of its ramifications like they should, but then there's a group of people who know, oh my God, look what's going on. We got to do something about that. And yes, we do, but that's the downstream work we have to do. And it won't ultimately get rid of it, because this is all happening as a subsequent need and a subsequent cause. And the primary cause is what's causing all of that. The fall of mankind is the fall of mankind for a reason. We did something that destroyed a nutrient that feeds one of our senses. So in essence, we lost one of our senses. That's what makes the fall of mankind the fall of mankind. We used to have a golden age, but not anymore. We did something and we created another type of evil about our species that we didn't have before, and that's created by us. It's not part of our DNA. We're not born of sin. The only thing we're born of is a belief system and a way of life that it guarantees that history will repeat itself, and we'll continue to have the same problems that we've had forever. So all we have to do is satisfy two groups of needs. Unfortunately, most of us are not willing and able to do that, which is why I added 2 preliminary steps to the only thing we have to do, thereby perfecting a 3-step process. The first step addresses the willingness issue on a temporary basis so we can see what we're missing, and then be in a better position to take the second step where we're going to correct 5 main mistakes on a permanent basis. And then once we add these 5 main mistakes onto our list of mistakes to correct, we'll finally be in a position to do the only thing we have to do, and that is satisfy these 2 groups of needs. And one thing I can say for sure, when you guys do this, you're in for a treat.